Welcome back to Special Report. It is time now for our Common Ground segment. Joining us tonight are two of the members, the top two members of the House Intelligence Committee, Republican Chairman Mike Turner and Ranking Democrat Jim Himes. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us tonight. I wanted to get to this hearing tomorrow, which is pretty rare for the Intelligence Committee, an open hearing, a panel of 5 former members attending, talking about bipartisanship. But I do want to start about some of the breaking news, and this one comes from the Washington Post. The U.S., according to the Washington Post, had intelligence of detailed Ukrainian plan to attack the Nord Stream pipeline. The CIA learned last June via European spy agency that a 6-person team of Ukrainian Special Operations Forces intended to sabotage the Russia to Germany natural gas project. Chairman Turner, first to you. Thoughts on this and knowledge of it? Anything you can shed light on?
Well, obviously, we cannot confirm or deny the details of a report, especially such as this, where it's from unnamed sources. I can certainly say that the administration, of course, has been adamantly opposed to any attacks on infrastructure, certainly an attack like this, that's an economic attack, and certainly so the United States is absolutely opposed, whoever the actors were, for this type of a sabotage action.
Congressman Himes, the administration was pretty clear at the time about this. Take a listen.
Until complete investigation is done, no one will be able to really determine for certain what happened.
If only people weren't so gullible when it comes to some of these claims. We couldn't be clearer about this. We categorically reject these false accusations. The United States was not involved in this in any way.
We still do believe it was an act of sabotage. The United States was not involved in any way, contrary to some press reporting out there.
So, Congressman Himes, the United States, they said, was not involved in any way. At the time, from Capitol Hill and from the administration, were suggestions that Russia did it. So there's some confusion here.
Well, Brett, yeah, we can't obviously talk about either press reports that may be pointing at classified information or the classified information itself. I can tell you that the individual at the White House who said the United States was involved in no way, shape, or form was accurate. The United States was not involved. The White House is also appropriately careful about naming names on these situations. We've got, of course, a situation right now where a dam was destroyed. The Ukrainians are saying it was the Russians. The White House is being very careful until we know for sure, no such statement is going to be made.
Some things you can talk about is the situation in Ukraine currently. Mr. Chairman, your assessment of where things stand and whether the support from the U.S. is as strong as you think it should be.
Well, I was in Ukraine just a couple months ago, and Jim and I were in Ukraine just before the election, making clear of our strong support. I was there learning about the plans of their upcoming offensive, and today the Armed Services Committee has received a briefing. And I can tell you that from the U.S. perspective, I think we're very confident that the Ukrainians are ready, that they have the equipment that they need. They certainly have the spirit, as President Zelensky has rallied his country and the world on this is the fight for democracy. I think the Ukrainians are up for this fight, and the Russians are certainly going to see, I think, their forces being pushed back to the border in Ukraine, retaking their territory.
Congressman Himes?
Yeah, look, I think this institution, the Congress, is very strongly behind continuing to support the war in Ukraine against the Russians. And I think that's not just a Congress or a U.S. issue. That is a NATO and Western issue. People understand that if Putin gets anything out of this, this will not be the last time we see it. Now, some of the supposed critics of the effort are saying, hey, we should have better accountability about where the money is going, where the weapons are going. That's all fair. That's all fair. People can say we want to make sure that these weapons and all of the aid that is being provided to the Ukrainians is being used well. That's different than saying I oppose aid, which I will tell you, and I think the chairman would agree, is a pretty fringy view around here right now.
I have to ask this because it's in the news about unidentified aerial phenomena and the possibility that this whistleblower is accurate.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many? quite a number.
It's astonishing. These people are said to be well respected.
Maybe I'll jump in quickly here and just say we did have a hearing. In fact, we've had 2 hearings in the last couple of years on this subject. And I asked a question in the second hearing. I asked, because of course you hear this notion that's been out there forever that the United States government is hiding material, that we're hiding aliens or whatever. I asked a very specific question, which is, do we have any sort of matter, organic or inorganic or whatever, that we can't explain as to its source? Now, this was a year, maybe a year and a half ago, and the answer was an unequivocal no.
Mr. Chairman, obviously part of the story is that they've held it from Congress, from the administration. I mean, it's pretty astonishing if true. Anything to weigh in on?
Bret, this has been a story since the 1960s, really. Every decade there's been individuals who've said that the United States has such pieces of unidentified flying objects that are from outer space. There's no evidence of this, and certainly it would be quite a conspiracy for this to be able to be maintained, especially at this level.
Okay, you're having a panel tomorrow. 5 former members, a rare open hearing aimed at restoring bipartisanship. Mr. Chairman, let me start with you about why to do this. Obviously, the House Intelligence Committee has a bit of a sordid past when it comes to bipartisanship. I assume that's behind this.
Absolutely. I got to give Jim Himes credit. We are working together as a team. We're facing national security threats, and we're doing it on a bipartisan basis. Every member of our committee has made a commitment to work bipartisan, and it really came from Speaker McCarthy and Hakeem Jeffries, Minority Leader, coming before our committee and giving us this charge that we are to work for on national security and keeping our country safe, and we're doing it. And
Congressman Himes, just to end on you, you've had 11 members on a recent Mideast CODEL, including both of you. You referenced that. For folks out there that think that Congress does not work in this way, in a common ground way, what do you say to them?
Well, the national security committees need to work. And, if you look back over the history of the Intelligence Committee, generally speaking, it has. We've managed to keep the politics out of it. There were some years there, obviously, when the whole Ukraine investigation was undertaken by the committee where, yes, we were badly, badly polarized. The chairman has really committed himself, and I have too, to making sure that we keep the partisan fights out of this. National security is way too important. When we go to the Middle East, as we did, we were in Israel, we were in Jordan, we were in Egypt, it is really important that people see us working together in the service, not just of our own national security, but in the service of stability around the world. If we're fighting with each other, that in the national security realm, that is a comfort to our enemies, and we're not going to do that.
Always trying to find common ground here. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member of the House Intelligence Committee, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.